Smells party.
Cracking your teeth in 5,
Shoots up.
4. Lucas and Aaron, your nocturnals are here.
Ooh, Lucius and Aaron's nocturnals.
I know, it's coming my reference book.
If I ever need it. He said ever need it.
Whoever's coming, you can stop, please. Thank you, Connor, for being ready and Honor for being ready. Check your cubby, check your rucksack. Volunteers, you want to put 8 as the numerator? Kaylee? Eight is the numerator. Okay, pick someone to put 2 or 3 as a denominator. Three, sorry. 3. He knows what he needs to do.
Put the marker down.
Aaron?
3.
Someone who knows what that's the name of that paper fraction is. Someone else, please.
It is an improper fraction.
Okay, what's your name called?
Yeah, I called him. Oh, okay,
Improper fraction. Michael, go up there and I want you to change that to a mixed number.
okay. So,
Jeremiah, hold on. It's okay. I want you to show you this.
okay. Oh, no, it's not
Please be respectful.
And since 2 is the remainder, that's what goes as the numerator, and you keep the denominator, and this thing that you're wrong. Read 2. No, that's supposed to be 2.
2 and 2/3.
A 2. Hey, it's right.
Mark away, please. Michael? Will you call someone who will come up to the board and write a mixed number?
Write a mixed number? Sean.
Two and 1/3. Sean, pick someone who can convert that to a fraction or an improper fraction. Remember, you can interchange those two words, fraction or improper fraction. Can this explain your thinking?
It's
2 times 3 is 6. So 6 plus 1 is 7. 7 thirds, and the denominator 2 thirds.
Right, look for the mixed number. you to call on someone who you haven't seen come to the board very many times to convert that to an improper fraction or fraction. If you're done with your cups, please don't be playing or leave them on your desk or throw them away.
8 times 9 is 72, plus 3 is 75. And then keep the denominator.
75/8. Today we're going to work on the second half of the lesson we started yesterday. Mrs. Foster and I decided it was a long lesson, so we split it into 2 days to give you some time to work on it. So this is the second half. And it's kind of funny because it seems to deal with something that's not really related to comparing fractions, which is what we did yesterday. What we're working on today is called adding fractions. I know some of you know how to do this with finding equivalent fractions with the same denominator. We're going to use what are called fraction sticks. Raise your hand if you've heard of the term fraction stick before. With your words, can you describe what a fraction stick looks like? Jenna? A long rectangle, okay. It's divided up, right? Okay. So let's go ahead and make a fraction stick. How many parts is that divided into?
5.
Jeremy, thank you for raising your hand.
5.
5 parts. Okay. So that's a fraction stick with 5 parts. When you see fraction sticks, the little bar, so each rectangle represents one whole. Okay? So if I draw in another fraction stick, how many holes do I have? Raise your hand if you know. Sean, how many holes do I have?
2.
I have 2 because I have 2 fraction sticks. Each fraction stick represents a hole. On your test, they will provide the fraction sticks for you. Okay. So you don't have to draw them. They'll be on your board. Open up your math journal, page 131, and we're going to kind of work through this together. So will you look off of Lucas's right now? Actually, you know what? Why don't you, don't write in this one, but you can look at this.
Oopsie.
Antonia ready?
What happened? I stepped on that quarter of the camera. On the camera.
We're going to go through it together, don't worry about it. So like we said, a whole stick is worth how many? 1. Okay. Baby, how many pieces is this split into? 4. Into halves, right? Into 2 pieces. Erin, how many pieces is this one split into?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
8? 8, okay. So let me ask you a question. If I were to draw a fraction that represents this bar, what number would go on the bottom? Thank you for raising your hand, Jeremiah. For this picture, what number is going to go on the bottom of our fraction? What's going to go in our denominator? 2. How did you know 2? Because there's 2 total pieces. What about over here? Haley, what number goes on the denominator here? 8. How did you know 8? Right, because you should split into 8 parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the number on the bottom tells you how many total parts you've split the whole into. Okay, right here. Does that make sense or does that not make sense? How you get that number?
Oh, yeah. Yes, maybe.
So the number that goes on the bottom, Anna, what number do you think goes on the bottom for this picture? How did you know 4? Okay. How many parts is that whole? So the rectangle is one whole. How many parts is the whole split into? Think about a candy bar. How many parts is that candy bar split into? 4. Okay, so that goes on the bottom. Some of you are struggling with this concept of fractions. That's why we're going over this. So let's look at the two halves. If I color in one of these, what goes as my numerator? Raise your hand if you know. Dawson?
1,
How did you know 1?
because 1 and the 2 is
I love how Dawson said that. Did everybody hear that? 1 out of the 2 pieces that we have is shaded in. I like to think of it in that way, 1 out of the 2, because that helps me picture it. There's a rectangle, split into 2 pieces, and I know that because the denominator is 2. And only 1 of those is shaded. So Nathan, look over here at the 8s. Okay? What goes with my numerator now? How many parts did I shade? How many parts did I shade? 3. You were right the first time. 2. So I shaded 2 out of how many parts? 8. So 2 out of the 8 parts. 2 divided by 8 is another way to do that fraction. Okay. Okay. I want somebody to give me a fraction for this picture. I know it's hard to see. We're going to represent that as a fraction. Thompson? 5 out of how many?
16.
So 5 pieces are shaded out of the 16 pieces we have total. That rectangle. Makes sense? Doesn't make sense? John? Makes sense? Doesn't make sense? Keep working on it. Thank you. Okay, using fraction 6 to find equivalent fractions. So we're going to look at these pictures at the top. Use the fraction 6 to find equivalent fractions. 1/8, so just one of these 8s. Can you compare it and see how many 16ths that would equal? So if I shaded in one of those 8s, that equals how many 16ths? Can you use your picture to figure that out? So one of those 8s equals how many of those 16ths? One of those 8s. How many of those 16ths? 3 people know? So if we just shoot in one of those things, how many 16s would that be? Crystal, how many 16s would that be? 2 16s. So we're finding equivalent fractions again, but this time we're using our fraction 6. If you were in the group with Grandma Carolyn, you did a lot of that. You did a lot of finding equivalent fractions, just looking at those pictures. Do you remember those? Sure. You were in Grandma Carolyn's group, do you know? Okay, so let's look at part B. So we know what 12 16ths is. So I'm going to look at 12 16ths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 12 16ths equals how many 8s? Give me hands if you know. How many 8s that 12 16ths would equal? You can look at your picture. Well, all those 16 pieces would equal how many of those 8s? So we can hold that much. You see? So if we go over all the way so let's see. We're going to see how many the same amount of area that's covered. Do you see them? Oh, they're the same? Crystal, how many? 6 eighths. Who knows how many fourths that would be? It's a tricky one, because it's not right next to it. How many fourths would that be? Use your fraction stick if you do. Jeremy?
3/4.
How did you know 3/4?
Because it would be even. It's closer than 2/4 or 4/4.
Well, look at this. Isn't this 1/4 right here? Because you can see the big line, right? Here's another fourth. Here's another fourth. Could you figure out those fourths from the 60? You have 3/4. I'm going to leave the rest of those to do on your own, but we're going to move on to this one as a group, okay? Use the fraction sticks to add fractions with the same denominator. So this is first step. We're looking at fractions that have the same what? Denominator. Same what? Okay, I'm over hearing like 3 people. So I'm going to look at this example and we're going to figure it out together. Pay attention. On your test, it asks you to figure out how to add fractions with fractions. Okay, 1/8 plus 2/8. How many pieces is our fraction stick split into already? What have they done for us? How many pieces is it split into? Raise your hand if you know. Jeff? 8. They've already split it into 8 pieces. Why did they split that into 8 pieces? Raise your hand if you know. Why did they split that 1 into 8 pieces? Connor? Because the denominator is 8, so they split it into 8 pieces for you. They did it already. That's easy for you, because you don't have to think about that. Okay. So if we want to shade in 1/8, how many of these sections are we going to have to shade in? The 1/8. Raise your hand if you know. 2 people know? 3 people know? How many sections do I have to shade in to get 1/8? That? So if I shade in 5 of these sections, I'll get 1/8. One section. So I'm going to fill one of them there. So I know I have to fill in 1 section. How many sections do I have to fill in to get 2/8? Nathan? Just the 2/8. How many sections should I have to fill in to get just 2/8? 2 sections. Okay? So I'm taking 1 section and I'm adding it to how many sections? 2, and that gives me how many sections? So they filled in 3 sections. Okay? So they filled in those 3 sections, and that tells them 3 of those sections out of how many? 8. That was their way of adding 1/8 plus 2/8. Okay, watch as I do with part A. I know this is hard to say, pay attention, but you don't have to do this on your test, okay? So please make sure you're paying attention and know how to do this, because I want to know if you don't, so I can pull you up in a group, okay? 2/4 plus 1/4. How many sections do I have to fill in for this 2/4? Raise your hand if you know. Nathan? 2 sections. How many sections do I have to fill in for the 1/4? Jenna? Okay. So if I take my 2 sections and I add my 1 section, how many sections do I have to fill in? 3, 4.
Oh, so it's like this.
Raise your hand if you know my answer. The 2/4 plus 1/4. That's 2/4 plus 1/4, Antonia. How many? 3/4. That makes sense, that doesn't make sense. Okay. I'm doing more. 3/16 plus 9/16. Crystal, how many sections am I gonna have to fill in for this 3/16?
Oh!
How many of those sections am I gonna have to fill in? So Crystal, look up here. 3/16 means 3 out of 16, right? So how many sections do I have to fill in out of those 16? 3. Rachel, can you help her out? Rachel. How many sections? For just this one. 3 sections. Okay, how did you get that 3? Do you know that this is split into 16 pieces? And to get 3 out of 16, you have to fill in 3 of them. Crystal, how many sections do you have to fill in for 9/16? 9. So I'm going to take away 3 sections. And I do 9 sections.
8 sections. 16.
What do I get? Raise your hand if you know the answer. Jen? 12, and out of how many? Out of 16. Read the instructions for number 3, please, Jaden.
Use the fractions if you have fractions with different denominators.
Okay, so now we're using different denominators. Or the denominators were before the denominators were the same, and now they're different. Same process. You just have to do a little more thinking. How many sections do I have to fill in to get 1/2? It's a tricky one.
8.
Look at your picture. How many of those sections of my fraction stick do I have to fill in to get 1/2? Obi?
I borrowed calculator. Okay, thank you.
No, sir, here. Over here. Over here.
She said 2.
How many? 2. How did you know 2? So we just have to look at our stick. This is half of it, right? Eyes up here, please. That's half of it, right?
Yeah.
Because to fill in 2 of those sections to fill up half of it. Well, how many of those sections do we need to color in for a 4th? Raise your hand if you know. It's split into 4 sections, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. So how many do we have to fill in to get 1/4? And there's 4 sections total. Jeremiah? 1. So Jeremiah, how many sections do I have to fill in total? 3. 3.
What I did is kind of the other way around. The denominator, you don't add up here, but the denominator that you have to add just like the other way around.
So 1 plus 1.
Well, because they're the same number.
Okay, so let's think about this. How many sections do we fill in? Raise your hand if you know. How many sections do we fill in there? Anna? How many sections did I fill in? 3. How many sections were there total? 4. So my answer is 3/4. If you get this, I'm going to let you go on your own. You're going to do page 131, 132 with a partner, page 133 individual, make sure that you've made up all of your math boxes and everything that we did yesterday. Make sure it's all completed. You're in charge of that because I'm going to grade them today. So you get the grade that you completed. Okay? The only person who has an excuse would be Jeb and Antonia since they've been up for a few days. If you have everything completed, you may play fraction topic, and what do you think I want to do you to do when you're done? Read. All right. I'm giving you lots of time to work on this. You have an hour to work on this. So I expect every math box to be finished. If you are still struggling with this, I want you to bring a whiteboard, a marker, an eraser, and your math journal. No. Up to the carpet. I want you to wait quietly because I have some things I need to get done first, okay? Okay, you're working in 5, 4, 3, 2. I don't want you to write this, but I want you to do this paper and you're going to do it. So that way we can find them. Before everybody leaves, we'll have it. Does that work? So you're coming up with the carpet work on it. Sean, Haley, Kyra, come up to the table, please.
Are you touching pencils?
None of Carolyn's going to work. Pay attention. Grandma Carolyn, there's assignments on the board.
Okay.
They're working with fractions.
Okay.
So, what I did is I asked them, if you were to fill in 2/4, how many of these sections would you need to fill in? Well, if they'd have to fill in 2 of those sections. If they were to fill in 1/4, how many sections would they have to fill in? And they add those up. So they have to fill in 3 sections total. So that equals 3. Right? That's what we're doing. You know, Crystal is using it because she's fine, but I will, he is, I will make you the teacher. Your voice is easy, how's yours? Alright.
I tried. Really good.